yo, New Mutants might actually come out. I don't know. Fingers crossed. Hi everybody, Carla here again, and this one is going to be really quick, I swear. But we haven't, because of the pandemic, we haven't had much of a flow of anything regarding fandom information in the last few months, honestly. It's been pretty dead for the most part. But now, Comic-Con at home is taking place, which is obviously different from the original Comic-Con in that there is no convention, it's all virtual, but there have been panels that have been coming out and some stuff has been released. That makes me really excited. So I just need to take a few minutes to chat about one thing in particular, but before that I'm gonna mention other stuff that's come out. Like for example, this morning, I'm recording this on a Saturday, this morning was the Dragon Prince panel for Comic-Con at home. And I haven't watched the panel yet, but I saw that they revealed that the Dragon Prince has been picked up by Netflix for the entire saga. So that's, 7 seasons? We've only had 3 so far, so it's like 4-season renewal at once. And it's been a long time coming, like the last season of Dragon Prince came out in November, right? That was season 3. And yeah, now we know that we're gonna have the whole thing, so it's not gonna be an incomplete series. And I think that just goes to show how much Netflix trusts this show, how much money it makes for them, because it's a really great show. And I have a whole video on the Dragon Prince when I reviewed the previous season. I am curious about where the Aaron Ahaz harassment accusations went, because I think he's still around, and I believe he's still, the head of Wonderstorm. So I wonder if Netflix, had a talk with him at the very least. Like, you would hope that they did something. But yeah, I don't know that. I doubt it was touched upon in the panel, but it's interesting. But I did want the show to be renewed, even though Ahaz is a douchebag apparently. I don't want the show to be renewed because it's a great show and a lot of good people work on it and deserve, to have their work out there. So I think it's great. I hope that it having 7 seasons actually makes it one of those like cornerstone animated series, like Avatar: The Last Airbender or whatever. But I'm really happy because it's been a long time coming. Since November I'd been expecting them to announce season 4, and it didn't happen until now, like 8 months later, which is weird because usually Netflix decides by like 1 month from the premiere or so whether it should be renewed or not. So I think people were getting pretty antsy. But it's good that it's been renewed, and not only that, but that we get the whole saga. So that's one thing. The other thing that came out is a New Mutants panel. Because yes, New Mutants is still a thing. And people keep trashing on this movie because it's been in development hell for so long. It hasn't. That's an exaggeration. But people are just piling this movie because it's been postponed so many times. And yes, I get it, it's been postponed, but it doesn't, we don't have to assume that it's being postponed because it was bad. This movie has been finished for like a year already. And yes, there were rumors at some point that they wanted to do reshoots to make it scarier or whatever, or more horror or whatever. The actors and the director have said over and over that those reshoots are never happened. Like, that's not a thing that happened. So can we just disabuse ourselves of this notion that the New Mutants was bad, or that it played bad for like audiences or whatever, and that got Disney scared because, you know, they couldn't have a bad movie or whatever. I think there's a 50-50 chance that this is good or bad. You know, it's like with any movie. It could be good, it could be bad. I have liked all the trailers that came out. I think the horror spin on an X-Men movie works very well, especially with these characters. I like Josh Boone. I think he's a good director, so I've been looking forward to this movie, and it feels like I'm the only freaking person in the universe who's, you know, been looking forward to this movie without any trepidation. Yes, the continuous postponement of the release date is an issue. I genuinely don't think it had anything to do with the movie. I think the first time around the movie just wasn't ready, which is good. It's good that they decided to postpone it instead of, you know, try to push it forward when it wasn't ready. And then the whole Disney-Fox merger happened, and they had to, you know, reassess their entire slate, I guess. But Disney decided it was good enough, not just to release under the Disney banner, but also to release in theaters. Because a lot of people thought that this was just going to go the Artemis Fowl way and just be dumped on Disney Plus or Hulu or whatever. And Disney is still insisting that it should be released in theaters. So clearly they think they can make their money on this thing. So they must think it's good. And of course then the pandemic happened and all the theaters went kaput. So it's a thing. But as of today, New Mutants is still slated for August 28th. I don't think it's going to happen. Personally, not because of the movie, but just because of the pandemic. I don't think anybody will feel safe enough to go into a movie theater on August 28th, which is like a month from now. Like everything is normal. I don't think that's a thing that's gonna happen. I think theaters will probably still, theaters here in Australia are open right now, at least in New South Wales. They're open. Like the theater in my town is open. I could go. I'm not going to because they still have restrictions for the amount of people that can be inside, and you know, sitting in one enclosed space with a few dozen other people for 2+ hours without masks, because I'm going to have popcorn. So without masks, it doesn't feel safe right now. And even though they do have restrictions, like I don't think, even if all theaters everywhere are open on August 28th, I don't think it will be at 100% capacity. So honestly, I just think until theaters can go back to 100% capacity of what they were doing pre-pandemic, I don't think it's worth it for the studios to release anything in theaters, because they won't make their money back. They won't. And in any case, the theaters probably should get more of a cut of a first-run movie, precisely because they've been closed and they freaking need a lot of money, or else they will, you know, go bankrupt. But I just don't think it makes business sense at all. So I'm honestly expecting that pretty much no new movies are going to be released this year, at least. You know, like, I mean, maybe some of the smaller ones that can be released in drive-in theaters, smaller horror movies that don't need to make back as big a budget as the New Mutants would, or as Mulan would, or as Black Widow would. So I'm not expecting theaters to make a full comeback until at least next year. And even if theaters are open, studios will probably have to complement it with VOD. I know that's a thing that the theater industry and the studios have been fighting about for so long, and I understand why. But I think we're in the middle of an emergency, so I think some leeway should be given here, because studios will never make their money back without VOD, I don't think. And I'm not going to go to the theaters until I feel it's safe. Even if New Mutants is in theaters. Even if Mulan is in theaters. I won't see them. I will wait until they're on VOD and then I will watch them. And I don't think I'm the only one who feels that way. So it's a tricky situation, but I think we're gonna have to relax some of the basic tenets of movie distribution as we know them. It worked for Trolls, it worked for Scoob. I think just release this thing on VOD. All of them, honestly. Like, would I love to see Mulan in the big screen? Sure. But I also don't want to be the only person in my group of friends who hasn't seen it because I won't step into a theater. You know what I mean? Like, if you give me the option of watching it on VOD rather than going to the theater, the way things are right now, I will do that. And that's fine. You know, I will miss the experience, but I would rather see the movie than see the movie correctly, you know? So it's a whole thing. They actually made fun of the continuous postponements at the beginning of the panel, which I thought was genius. And when they settled on August 28th, they were like, you know, fingers crossed. I don't think it's gonna happen. And honestly, I'm totally fine with them releasing it on Disney Plus, or even better on VOD. I think they would make more money if they release it on VOD than they do in Disney Plus. I don't subscribe to Disney Plus. I only subscribe for a month. Like, I think my subscription probably expires like today or something, because I subscribed for the month just so I could watch Artemis Fowl. But I'm not going to keep subscribing to D+. So I think they'd make more money if they just let people buy it online or rent it online rather than forcing them to subscribe to D+, because they will unsubscribe the next month. And the D+ subscription is a lot lower than the cost of the movie on VOD. So yeah, I honestly, I think they should release it both ways. Like, even if they release it in theaters, it should be released in VOD at the same time. And the theaters won't like that, but we are kind of in the middle of a situation. And I think everybody has to give a little. And I think if everybody just keeps waiting for theaters to come back, we're gonna go the entire year without any movies. And studios aren't going to make any money back, because most of the money is going to go to theaters, which it should, you know, because theaters have suffered so much. But if you release it on VOD, none of that movie goes to theaters, or a smaller chunk, because I think in some cases there are some agreements there with the studios as well. So, I mean, it's a tricky situation, but I think we can't keep working under the principle that everything should be done exactly the same way that it was done before the pandemic hit. Because we're in a pandemic. That's not nothing. We have to change the way we do things. And I think this is one of those things. So, you know, if they decide come August 28th or the week before or something, if they decide we're just gonna put it out on VOD and that's it, I will watch it on VOD. I will happily watch it in my TV. It's awesome. I think it's fine. I watched Artemis Fowl and it is fine. There are a bunch of movies that I would totally watch on VOD rather than going to theaters, because going to the theater is freaking expensive and I have to wake up early to get there, take the bus, and I basically waste the entire day for 2 hours of movie. And that's not fun. So if you give me the option of VOD, I will take it. And I do hope that we get to see New Mutants at some point or another, even though I appreciate the fact that Disney thinks it's good enough to put in theaters, to release in theaters. I think that I feel like that's a sign of confidence on Disney's part, because if they thought they were going to put it in theaters just to let it flop, they would release it on Disney Plus or on Hulu or whatever, like they did with Artemis Fowl. But the fact that they're sticking with their guns in this, I think it's a sign of confidence, so that makes me feel better. But we really just want to see this movie, y'all. It's like, really. And it's funny because everybody loves to shit on this movie, like, so hard. It's become the butt of the joke wherever you go. But they also, during the panel, they released the first 2 minutes of the movie, which I thought were pretty great. But they also released a trailer, a new trailer, which I assume will be the final trailer, honestly. But they released a trailer, and all of a sudden, everybody who's been shitting on this movie since day one because it was going to be so bad because it's been postponed so many times and it's in development hell or whatever, suddenly everybody's freaking out about this movie because it looks so good. And I just wanted to take a second to say that trailer is amazing. I can't do like a frame by frame thing because I just don't have the time. Like I said, I'm supposed to be studying or working right now, but that trailer was amazing. It's the most mutant power centric trailer that we've seen, because the first 2 trailers that we saw for the movie were sort of mood based. Like, it was to tell you what the mood of the movie was going to be. Basically to let you know that this is not your average X-Men movie, it's a horror superhero movie kind of thing. But then in this one, they just unleashed the mutant powers, and I think that's great because I've seen people complaining about that for months. You know, it's like, we barely saw any powers and whatever. Dude, that's how trailers work. You leave your flashy stuff for the last trailer to give the people that push that they needed. So yeah, and I think this movie is amazing. The cast is great. The first 2 minutes are good. I really enjoyed them. I think Blue Hunt really feels like Mirage. I was happy to see Adam Beach there. I like him. I saw a few people complaining that he sucks as an actor. Dude, that's Adam Beach. He's an institution. Let it go. Like, that's the way he is. It just because you don't like it doesn't mean that he sucks. He's got a career, and he's done great, and stop complaining about him. Besides, I think there's an issue with the ADR a little bit, because obviously they're filming outside. The audio was probably not great. They had to ADR it, and there's a bit of an issue there. But Adam Beach is great, and he'll probably only be in that one scene anyway, so I don't know what your point is. And people love to complain about this stuff. Like, I've been watching reactions since yesterday, and it was like people just sitting there and watching like, but it didn't tell me what's happening. And I'm like, it's the first 2 minutes. Do you want them to tell you the big reveal of the whole entire movie? Like, of course you're gonna have no idea what's happening right now. It's the first 2 minutes. Has any horror movie ever told you what is happening in the first 2 minutes? Let's be serious now, people. Come on. So, like, I don't understand people sometimes, but I thought it was great. I really liked just the way Josh Boone takes to the filming of this whole thing. Like, the cuts were interesting. They felt very horror as well. The J.A. cam, of course, helped. Just the way that it pans down on her face, and then she opens her eyes and she's in the hospital. I thought that was very horror-like. I really enjoyed the first 2 minutes, and I like the tone that this movie seems to have. But then the trailer was like all the way in with the mutant powers, and I thought that was great. I am absolutely 100% certain that Anya Taylor-Joy as Magic is going to completely steal this movie because she's so great. I love her. I adore that she's fighting Demon Bear with the Soul Sword. I love everything about her, and I can't wait to see her in this thing. Macy does seem to have a lot of good chemistry with Blue Hunt. I'm looking forward to that. Like, even from just the first 2 minutes, you're like, something's going on there. right? So I like that. To be honest, I'm still just like, why? Like I think they'll be cute, but at the same time I'm like, why is Ileana not a lesbian yet? Like, please give me one X-Men universe where Ileana is a lesbian, because like if there's anyone in the whole X-Men universe that I would point to and say she needs to be in a relationship with a woman at some point, it's Ileana. Like, I don't even have to think about it twice. So I'm shocked that they went with Mirage and Rain in this one rather than Ileana, who seems the most obvious to me. So that's interesting. We heard a little bit more from Roberto as well, a little bit more from Sam, which I think is interesting. And yeah, just everything you see in this trailer is fantastic. It sort of blew my mind, really, because I had already liked the first two trailers, but this one was like, poof, you know. So I'm happy to see that people are actually liking it, because this movie has been dunked on so much for so long, and as an X-Men fan, it's kind of a bit sad for me to have something that I'm so excited about just dunked on relentlessly over and over and over again. So I hope that when this movie comes out, if it comes out, and God, I hope that it comes out somehow, even if it's not in theaters, when this movie comes out, it's going to shut a lot of people up, because it looks fantastic and it looks like something completely different than what we know, and I think that's really important. But it also looks really damn cool, like that scene with Ileana and Demon Bear. That looks like something we'd see from a Marvel movie, so I'm totally okay with it. I'm particularly looking forward to seeing Rain's transformation. We only get glimpses of it in this one, but I hope it looks good. I guess we'll see. And just, you know, everything looks really great. I'm really excited. Let me know what you guys think. Have you been one of those people who have been dunking on this movie forever, and now with the last trailer your mind is suddenly changed and you know you found Jesus or whatever? Let me know in a comment. I'm really interested, because people really do seem to be liking this trailer. Of course, there's gonna be people who are just going to be negative about it no matter what, but you can tell who those are. Most people are pretty, you know, okay with this trailer. They like it, they find it intriguing, and I think that's very important, and I hope that means that the movie does well, you know, whenever it's released, however it's released, because this is the last hurrah of the X-Men at Fox, and I think that's important, because I was a fan of the X-Men movies at Fox. Not all of them were great, some of them were pretty bad, but the ones that were good were really good, and I think they deserve more credit than they get usually. Like, everybody's like, oh, now Marvel can do it right. Yeah, okay, but that doesn't mean that the Fox take was completely awful, and I enjoyed it a lot, and it created the superhero movie as we know it today. So I think it's important to have them go out with a bang, and I think New Mutants can do that. So hopefully it'll do good whenever it's released, however it's released. I hope we get a good movie, because I love these characters and I want to see them done right. So yeah, we'll see. I think that's about it for me today. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you like my stuff, please subscribe to my channel. I'm always happy to see people sharing and liking and commenting and subscribing. It really helps me a lot with the YouTube algorithm. You can find me on social media. I am on Twitter and Instagram at girlsareweird with underscores between the words, and on Tumblr at girlsareweird with hyphens between the words. You can follow me also on Twitter at FreakingNarnia_. I haven't updated that one for a long while because the pandemic sort of took over and I lose track of it, but I will go back and retweet all my tweets, all my fandom tweets, or as many as I can find, at least, because Twitter search is useless. But I will go back to retweeting on a regular basis like I used to, but all my fandom tweets are curated over at FreakingNarnia _ on Twitter. So if you wanna, follow my fandom life without following my real life stuff, so like politics and science and that kind of stuff, which I'm very active on, then FreakingNarnia _ is where you have to follow. There's a Facebook page for this vlog at facebook.com/FreakingNarnia, and as usual, be sure to visit my main website at FreakingNarnia.com. All my videos are up there. If you missed any, just look it up and it'll be there. Also remember that I have a Redbubble store where I make art based on my favorite quotes from my favorite fandoms, and then you can use that art to print on different kinds of merchandise, such as, coffee cups, computer covers, t-shirts, that kind of stuff. It's all there, so be sure to stop by and maybe purchase something if you're in the mood. It really does help me a lot. And I think that's about it for today. I will see you guys next time with another video from all the way in freaking Narnia. Bye everybody. That's got nothing, just nothing nothing, as usual,